Hey guys, it is MissSimReno. If you are returning to the channel, welcome back. And if you're brand new, I am very excited that you decided to join me here today for another speed build. And we're building in Brindleton Bay. Now, it's fall, and fall is my favorite season. Are we building in fall? We're not. We're not building in fall. In fact, we're building a beach house. Now, okay, I know it's fall. It's my favorite season of all time. I love building in fall in The Sims 4, but I recently did a custom content collaboration with Charlie Pancakes. We created a little mini set called the Lighthouse Collection, and it was inspired by like New England coastal furnishings and stuff like that. So my original thought was that I was going to build a New England inspired beach house and use the new CC set, but I ended up not using it in this build, and I don't know why that is. I literally don't know why. I don't know why I didn't do it. I might actually go back and just create a version that uses the set itself because it's mainly for living spaces, and I think I could swap out a few different items in the living room to actually incorporate those CC items that Charlie and I created together. But that was the original intent. Even though I didn't actually follow through and use the CC items here, I was really inspired to do this beach house. I was so looking forward to it because I think it's kind of an unusual shape from some of my other homes, and it really, really is reminiscent of a lot of homes that I would see on like Cape Cod, or just when you start getting closer to the actual beach with the actual coast. So like if you go to places such as, I don't know, like anywhere in Maine, you'll probably see something like this. Maybe anywhere in New Hampshire that's near the coast. Of course, Cape Cod in Massachusetts, like that whole coast, the whole East Coast, pretty much this is what you would see until you start reaching, what, Florida? I don't know. I'm not very worldly. I'll just be honest with you. I've actually never left the country. Isn't that interesting? Never in my life, not even to Canada. Never been. And I'm a lifelong New Englander, and that means Canada is not very far away. Anyway, I was very much looking forward to building this home, and I had so much fun with it. It took me a lot longer than I anticipated, and that's really just because I wanted to focus on a lot of the details, including the landscaping here, because I wanted this to really blend in with the whole coastal vibe. So I kind of got some of these plants that you would see all over the world of Brindleton Bay. I used a lot of the rocks and some of the grass details just to make it really look coastal. And you might be wondering why I'm actually lifting up a lot of these items from the quote unquote basement level. And that is mainly because if you do not do that, it could prevent your Sims from actually walking around in the house, even though it is technically underneath the stilt foundation. So I learned that the hard way. I don't remember exactly what build it was, but I remember trying to do this with another build, going to play test it and being like, why the heck can't my Sims walk around the house? Like, why can't they get to, this other room at the back of the build? And it was mainly because of some things that were underneath the stilt foundation, which you would think would be okay, but I was proven wrong. So a lot of time was spent trying to make this look as realistic as I possibly could on the exterior. It took a lot of finagling. I did have to use the tool mod a handful of times just to kind of get things at the appropriate height so they weren't floating and just kind of looking awkward. And I didn't do this underneath the entire build because it wouldn't be necessary underneath the parts that you can't see. So I really just kind of did it on the outskirts of the build itself, and I used this little like sand path because now growing up, not when I was like a young kid, but maybe middle school, high school age, something like that, we actually had inherited from my great grandmother, I want to say, a little teeny tiny cottage near a beach. Not on the beach, near a beach. And when I say teeny tiny, I mean maybe 600-700 square feet, something in that ballpark. It was really, really small. And we didn't keep it for a long time, but we did use it for maybe like a year or two, mostly. And I think we rented it out for a little while. I don't exactly know. I wasn't involved in that because I was a teenager, but we did use it a handful of times that I can recall. And it was really, really fun. And this reminded me of it, just like the sand pathways that bring you down to the beach. In my case, it was down to like a basin. It was really nice. I really enjoyed it. And I would not mind having a beach house. I also wouldn't mind having the money for a beach house, which I don't have. I absolutely do not have that at all. No, not at all. Anyway, we're onto the interior, and I used this flooring from I think it's from Outdoor Retreat, I want to say. And this is not my typical color scheme in regards to flooring. This really, really light flooring is not my jam, but I think it worked really nicely with the whole color scheme because I think you could probably expect this. I went with some stereotypical like white accents, some kind of very like soft beige woods, and blues, because the blues remind me of the ocean and I think it just makes sense. But the living room is my favorite room in the entire house, and it's because there are these two sliding doors that lead out to a front deck. Yeah, I'll call it a front deck. I was gonna say patio, but I guess it's kind of the same thing. And they lead out to the front deck where there's like an outdoor seating area and a grill. I was gonna put some lounge chairs, but I really wanted there to be an outside seating space, so I had to kind of make that decision. You could, of course, get rid of it and put some lounge chairs if you want, but since the beach is towards the back of the house, I thought that that would make more sense if there was a lounge chair on that side instead of the front. I don't know. I had to make some decisions, but I really like the living room. It's a pretty decent size, a little bit bigger than I was anticipating, and I did play test it. My sim was able to get around the furniture, around a lot of these tight corners, to get out onto the deck, which was really, really important. There's a nice fireplace, so if this was maybe somewhere where a family would retreat, even in the winter, if they just wanted to be near the ocean, they could at least have a nice fire because that would be necessary. I have stayed at a little tiny like beach cottage. I think, well, I'll kind of say I think it was on a lake, but still, same things apply. It was very cold and having a little like wood burning stove or a fireplace is a necessity. So I decided that that would be a really good addition to this home. And there's a bookcase in here. There is the sofa and then the two armchairs. And this was before we got the Desert Luxe kit, I think is what it's called. And I know that we have that curtain rod, which I could actually go ahead and put into this build before I upload it to the gallery, if I remember to do so. I might not remember because my memory is that of a goldfish, but that might be kind of nice because that's what I was thinking, is that there were basically like shades that you could pull to block out the sun if you weren't planning on going out onto the deck. I thought that was a really nice addition. And I think I do use the Desert Luxe kit actually near the end of the build on the deck itself. I think I used the grill that came with that kit, but I didn't even explore the kit enough to know that that was in there until now. So that's kind of an oversight on my end. But I did want to use a bunch of nautical decorations in here as well. I wanted it to be fairly cluttered because I wasn't thinking this was a vacation home, mind you. You could, of course, strip back a lot of this decor, a lot of kind of the personalized items, and you could make it a vacation home in Brindleton Bay if that's something you wanted to do. That could be a really nice way to use this build, but I was thinking that this was a full-time residence for a particular family, and I was thinking that they had the grandparents live with them as well. I'm not gonna call this a generations family home per se, just because I personally feel as though a generations family home needs space for a minimum of 7 Sims, at most 8 Sims, which is the max you can have in a household. And I believe that this is for 2 grandparents, 2 parents, and then just 1 kid. That's what I was thinking, because there are 2 bedrooms upstairs and 1 downstairs for the grandparents. So it's kind of a smaller house too. It looks deceiving. It looks a lot bigger, I think, on the exterior, but on the interior, it's actually fairly small. But I thought that that was kind of a nice use of one of the rooms downstairs to make it into a bedroom for grandparents. It just makes a little bit more sense with your elder Sims, so they don't have to go up and down the stairs. But if you did want, as I start to stumble over my words, if you did want, you could change the grandparents' bedroom into like another kid's room, a teen's room, whatever fits the family dynamic that you have in mind. It's a great opportunity to kind of change up that room to your liking. But then there are also a handful of hallways, and if you hear my Apple Watch go off again, I might scream. I just did another voiceover for an apartment that I actually put up, I want to say last week, when this video is going up. It was the week prior, and my Apple Watch went off in the middle of that too. I just got it recently. I'm still getting used to it. Maybe I can silence it. I don't know. I'm not very tech savvy. Contrary to what you might think, not tech savvy at all. But this is one of the hallways. I did put this nice grandfather clock, which I always forget about from base game. And then I just decorated a little side table with some flowers, this little lighthouse light, which is of course extremely appropriate for Brindleton Bay. And I think I actually used the Roombas in this build, the little robot vacuums from Cats and Dogs. I put one downstairs. and one upstairs. I don't know if they cover the whole floor and if they can go through doors on their own, because I don't play with them enough to know. I really don't. But I also included a vacuum as well, which I always forget that we have, because I always forget about the Bust the Dust kit, which is a mouthful, and I thought I was going to stumble over it, and I didn't. But this is going to be the kitchen. Now, it's a very odd shape, and it did it. My watch just went off again, I swear. Okay, so it's a very odd shape, but I thought it worked. So there's kind of like a little galley kitchen, and then there is a 4-seater little dining area. Now, what you could do is you could take the grandparents' bedroom and turn it into like an archwayed dining room. That could also work, but I just thought it was so big that it would have been kind of a, I guess not a waste of space, but I thought it would be better suited to be a bedroom or maybe like an office or something if you wanted to do that. I just thought that since it was on the other side of the house, it wouldn't make a lot of sense for it to be a dining room, since the kitchen is kind of towards the back of the build, but I leave that totally up to you all. If you like the way it is, you can keep it. If you feel like you want to make any changes, you feel free to do so. But there is the little 4-seater, and I did use the blue wood swatch of the chairs just to kind of tie in the blue accents that we have throughout this build and all of the furnishings. I don't always stick to a color scheme throughout an entire build, you know, all the way through to the bedrooms and things like that, but I did do that here because I thought it was necessary. And I think I just put I want to say another little side table, or, oh, this right here, this little hutch thing from Cottage Living, and a plant. And then I put a bench as well, just as like a place to, I don't know, sit and take off your shoes if you come through the back door. That's kind of the thought. I just thought it was kind of a nice accent piece, and I really didn't know what else to put there. The kitchen and this little dining area were probably the most difficult parts of the build for me to figure it out, because it just was such an awkward shape for a room, and I typically shape my rooms the same through a lot of different builds, something I'm trying to get better at. I really am. I'm trying to come up with different floor plans. I'm trying to come up with different layouts, but it's really hard to pull away from what feels super comfortable. Do you know what I mean? It's something I have to force myself to do, and I'm trying. I'm trying my best, but it is pretty much coming together at this point, just adding some lights, and then we're gonna go through and add a bunch of clutter. And I completely forgot about all of these mounted fish that we had in the Build and Buy catalog. Don't know how I did, but they're perfect for a build like this. And also the little like stack of wood that we got with the werewolves game pack. Forgot about that too. It's one of my favorite little clutter items, and I made sure to put it in here. But the kitchen ends up being pretty cluttered as well, even though it's a bit small being a galley kitchen. I want to say that I add at least one floating shelf, potentially over the stove. I know I had that little shelf there already with some kitchen items, but I really wanted this to look lived in and really cozy, especially the thought of having grandparents living here too. I was thinking that maybe the grandmother, I don't want to feed into too many stereotypes here, but there's also nothing wrong with the grandmother being the one that like makes a bunch of baked goods for the grandchildren or things like that, or just really enjoys cooking. But I also thought that maybe dad really liked cooking, and maybe he's learning a lot from his mother-in-law. I thought that was a really cute idea. Like, he's a decent cook to begin with, but she is just, you know, she's got years of experience on him, so he's gonna learn from her too. But it's a really, really cute kitchen. I really like it. Very informal, very like cottagey looking, because I did use these countertops from the Cottage Living expansion pack. I also added a few different crock pots here too, which are some of my, well, maybe those are those crock pots? Not technically crock pots. They're like simmer pots. What are they called? Is that the appropriate term? If it's not, someone will tell me in the comments. I know it. I don't always get things right. But then this is going to be the front entryway, where I did use this fun little shelf from Cats and Dogs that I always seem to forget about. And I did struggle with this space too, just because I didn't want to put another console table, which I'm literally doing right now and get rid of, but I didn't want to put another console table and like another armchair, which I might end up keeping. So I moved on to the bathroom, and there are actually 2 bathrooms downstairs. This is technically it's a full bath. Yeah, it's a full bath because it has a toilet, a sink, and a bathtub. So maybe that is for the grandparents, though they might have difficulty getting out of the tub. So maybe you want to change it to like a shower tub combo for the sake of realism. I don't know. But there's also another half bathroom that's off the other hallway with laundry, which I've been doing a fair amount of. I've been including laundry for a fair amount of builds lately, and I really enjoy it. Again, it's for the sense of realism Even if you think laundry's a pain in the butt in the game, you can always get rid of the stuff and just replace it if you want to. But I did include the vacuum, like I mentioned earlier. I toss a plant here in the hallway, and then I continue on with the laundry area, which I've been doing this a ton, where I put a couple of cabinets above the washer and dryer, and then I take a shelf where you can hang those wardrobes of like clothing from Dream Home Decorator or high school years, because we got a few of those too. But I was going ahead and doing that here, and I ended up going to the Dream Home Decorator one because you can hide it a little bit better. But it kind of looks like there's a shelf coming out of the cabinet above the washer and dryer, so I thought that was kind of nice. It adds a little bit of detail that we couldn't do before, not in the same way. But there is an armchair out here in the hallway, and then there's like a little side table with a lamp, I want to say, and I use a ton of that artwork from Cats and Dogs as well, because it's so coastal and beautiful. I used it throughout a few different rooms in this home, I think maybe the hallway and the living room mainly, and I think maybe the grandparents' room too. I can't really remember. Maybe the grandparents' room. I also added a mirror to this little shelf thing, as well as this basket of like towels and stuff, thinking that everybody can just like grab a towel and run down to the beach because they're right there, which is so nice. And then this is going to be the grandparents' bedroom, which I kept the color scheme for the most part, but I thought that the grandparents deserved a colorful quilt on their bed, and the wood tones just matched with everything else that I had, so it worked perfectly. I also gave them this nice blue wood-toned dresser, which is one of my favorites. Just tons of cats and dogs in this build, tons and tons, not actual animals, but like use of the pack. And then there's also an armchair in the corner. There's just a few different clutter items, such as this little hamper. And then I slightly decorate their dresser. I don't think I put too much, just thinking that the grandparents actually kept their clutter to a minimum. I think it's mainly the kid in this household who is a little bit cluttery, but the parents keep a lot of the clutter reserved for the kid's bedroom. They don't really allow it to spread too much to the living space or anything like that. And the kitchen is just kitchen clutter, so I don't know why I intended to say that in the first place. But we're moving on to the second floor. I'm really on it today. I don't know what it is. I'm in kind of a goofy mood. This is my second voiceover of the day, and prior to that, I hadn't done a voiceover in 2 weeks. So I'm feeling maybe a little bit uncomfortable with doing a voiceover at this point. I don't know why. I just feel very insecure. So I don't know, do with that information what you will, but this is going to be the kids' room. Now, I wasn't thinking that they had a son or a daughter or anything like that. Just wanted to make it a really cutesy kids' room and have it be somewhat themed with the colors that I use throughout the build. And I was thinking that more so this kid was, I don't know, kind of a mix of being a creative kid, but also kind of like an intellectual kid as well. Like they really enjoy school, but they also enjoy crafting and things like that to kind of express themselves a little bit more, because they don't feel like they get to really do that with a lot of their studies. Maybe art class is their favorite class, but they're also torn because they really enjoy like history or science or something. I don't know. They're dabbling in everything because they're just a kid and they should love anything and everything all at the same time. They're kind of exploring their interests and what they enjoy the most. And when they become a teenager, maybe they'll know a lot more about themselves. But there is their bookshelf in the room there. And then I tried to do this. I used this stool from the little campers kit that has like the blanket draped off of it. And I tried to make it look like it was draped off of the bed. And I think I kind of did it with that pile of clothing. I tested the bed and my sim was able to use it just fine, so that was great. But I thought it looked kind of cute. It was a nice way to customize the bed and add a little bit of clutter to it. Now, I did add a blob of clay into this room. Please, if your sims are continuously using the clay, get rid of it. That was a glitch from a long time ago, but I don't know what the sims' inclination is with clay or even playing the guitar. I've noticed if I have a guitar in a build, my sims are always gravitating towards it, even if they don't like it. Like, even if they end up hating it, they still gravitate towards it, and it kind of drives me nuts. But I'm just adding a few different clutter pieces onto the side table, and then I add a few pieces of artwork above this bookshelf, and then I do semi-clutter up the bookshelf because, again, I thought that the kid was the most cluttery of all of the sims in this household. And again, they reserve it to their room, which is just pretty much all theirs. I also used this pillow from the little campers kit and made it look like that was the head pillow on the bed, which is so fantastic because it doesn't block your sim's ability to use the bed. So it's kind of a nice way to customize pillows on beds or even couches if you wanted to. I think they're very juvenile. That's not fair. That's not fair. They're very kid themed. That's kind of what I'm trying to say. They're very kid themed designs, but you could absolutely use them however you'd like. It's kind of a nice thing to do, and it's a great way to use the tool mod. If you're a beginner, that's a great first kind of experiment, I think. But I am just adding a few different clutter items to this bookshelf, including the little pop-up book from the Little Campers kit that I love so much, and adding a few like knitted objects and stuff like that. It's a pretty cramped room for it being so small, but I got a lot of clutter in there and a lot of personality, I think. And then this hallway here is not going to be heavily decorated whatsoever. I think I just might add a plant, and I think a few of the sconce lights that came with cats and dogs as well. These here that I absolutely adore. I think there's a mirror as well. Yep, look it is. There's my mirror and the little Roomba. And then this is going to be the parents' bedroom. Now the parents' bedroom was really cramped, really small, because they have a door out to the deck up on the second story. And I didn't think I had room for a dresser. So they don't get 2 nightstands. That's how that turned out. They don't get 2 nightstands. I get rid of one. I kind of shift the bed over just a little bit, and I do add this dresser in the corner. It's a little bit of an awkward setup, but you know what? I also think that's what makes it a little bit more realistic, because not every room is perfectly organized or set up or anything of the like. So I thought it was really nice. I also added this console table with a TV so they can escape to their room and watch TV, get away from the kids and maybe the grandparents, I don't know. I put a couple of, what are they called? Hampers underneath that table as well, and added a little bit of clutter on top of the dresser, again, to make it look a little bit more lived in. They also get a mirror on their wall too, I think, near the door. Yes, they do. So it made it feel a little bit restricted, but again, my sim could get by the console table in bed to get onto the deck, so I didn't really care that much. And then out here, I do put one lounge chair, and I think there are wind chimes on every door as well that I end up adding, which I thought was really nice, especially near the beach. There's a telescope out here too, so your sims can look at all the stars out on the coast, which I think would be so, so nice, so peaceful. And then I decorate the, what's it called? The patio. I keep forgetting all of the words of all of the things today. But then we decorate the patio with that outdoor seating area and a grill as well. Oh, and I put some trash cans on the little back porch there. And then on the front here, I put a bench too, with a few more like buoy decorations from the menu. I think the debug menu instead of the build and buy catalog. But that is pretty much it for the build. I hope you all enjoyed this one. I am considering, like I said, uploading a version with the Lighthouse Collection CC set that Charlie Pancakes and myself came up with. That is also available for the public at this point. It was available on the 30th. So definitely check it out. If you haven't, go over to Charlie's Patreon page and let us know what you think. But hopefully you all enjoyed this one. I cannot wait to hear your thoughts, and I will catch you next time I post a video, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.
I know it's nothing new, but it's so good to see you. We do this every day, and I'm still so amazed by you. So hold me tight through the night. It's just us two, me and you. Oh, oh, I can't believe you love me. Oh, oh, I just feel so lucky. Oh, oh, still can't believe you love me. I hope it never ends, this being more than friends, yeah. You know I'm here to stay every single day.